And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Alrighty, folks, here we have today a game called Blue Skies. Heading for me, nothing but blue skies. Can I see? This is a game about airlines in the 1970s where you are in charge of one of 5 different airlines trying to open up airports all over the United States and get that cash coming in by basically having as many airports as you possibly can. Now, that's the theming of the game. Not really sure I feel the 1970s thing at all, but whatever. I guess it makes sense rather than having what we, there was more competition maybe between the airlines at that point in time to open up new airports. But that's the theming. The gameplay of this is very bingo-esque. Like, you like bingo? Now, you might, before you turn away, you're like, well, I don't know if I like bingo. Well, let me show you how it plays first, and then we'll talk. This is the board where you're going to have various airports that are going to have passengers. Passengers are red or green cubes. I'll talk about that in a second. Each of these airports has a spot for 4 gates, although the 4th gate's only used in a 4-player game. Each of these is in different areas, and that's going to matter because at the end of the game, whoever has the most gates in each of the areas, like the Pacific area, is going to get 14 points, and then 6 points, Southwest 12 or 6. And you'll notice that some of the airports are in multiple areas, like Chicago here is in the Midwest and Central. At the beginning of the game, you're going to seed the board with some passengers and also some local airline gates, and each player is going to get a chance to put out a couple gates of their own. So if I'm this player, I'm going to get to put these gates out. Now, over the course of the game, you're going to be placing passengers. Whenever you place a passenger, let's say I'm placing one in Houston, I'll pull a cube from the bag. If it's red, I just place it there. However, if I pull a green cube, then I would draw again. If I pulled another green cube, I draw again, and so you will keep drawing until you get a red cube. The bag is full of way fewer green cubes. There's mostly red cubes in here. If there is more than 1 gate at an area, so let's say there was 2 gates here, the first cube goes to the first gate, the second cube goes to the second gate, the next cube goes to the next one, and they go back and forth like that. So if there's 4 gates, you're going to have to split things up as evenly as you can. Each round of the game, players get to put out 6 points worth of gates. Now, when you're putting out gates on the board, you are looking at the numbers here. You don't actually pay any money. So, for example, if I'm the Cardinal player, I can put 1 here, and that would cost me 3. However, if there's a local airport there, you can replace a local airport, but you have to pay the buyout cost here. So the buyout cost would be 2, and I would pay 2 to take over that gate from the local airport. After players build airports or add gates, and adding a gate can also, if you add a gate, passengers will automatically spread out to meet all the gates, so that's going to change things too. Then each player who has a hand of cards will play one of these cards to add passengers there. So I can add 1 here to Boston, for example, and then we would draw from the bag like normal. Again, if you draw a red cube, that's the only one you put out. If you draw a green cube, you keep drawing till you get a non-green cube. And you do that. Then you're going to draw a card, 1 for each player. And these are just going to be random cards from the deck. Now, each airport has a certain number of cards in the deck. You can see, for example, Cincinnati has 1 card in the deck, while if you go down here to the very busy airport of Atlanta, you can see that there are 5 cards for Atlanta in the deck. As you do this, players are going to be keeping track the whole time of the number of passengers they have. And they're going to keep track on this board here of their income. At the end of every round, let's say my income was 7, because I had 7 passengers, you have another token, and you're going to keep track of that and add it to your score. So I would start with 7 on turn 1. Let's say then I got my income was 8 on turn 2. I jump up to 15. And you're going to keep going till somebody gets enough income to win the game. When someone gets to 30 income, the government steps in, and you get to add some more cubes to the board for players who are behind the leader, and each airport that does not have a gate but has a passenger will have local airports show up in those spots. And then you're also going to reshuffle the deck, so even the airports with 1 card could possibly come out again. Once somebody has reached 100 points, that ends the game. It doesn't mean that person's won, because I already mentioned you're going to check each of these areas here, and whoever you'll add together the value of your gates. So this gate here is a 2. You'll add the value of all your gates in each area together, and whoever has the most gets these points. You'll add those to your score, and whoever has the most is the winner. Each player also has a charter marker that you can use to refill your hand of cards, and most importantly, I've seen it for, basically add a passenger to any airport you want. But if you do so, you will lose the 3 points that that's worth at the end of the game. All being said and done, this game looks like a giant spreadsheet, and I'm not tremendously happy with the components for this particular game. This is just a square. If you like squares, you're going to be in love with this. I found it to be okay. It's kind of weird the way they put the airports on the board. So here's Miami, here's Orlando. They're quite close to each other, but Newark is right above Miami, which. So map-wise, they just basically put it in the closest region. But again, red cubes, green cubes, the whole thing just has a very clinical look to it. And I don't know, I'm just not thrilled by it. I mean, the symbols and stuff are fine. The cards are okay. I mean, they show you the information on them. I don't dislike the cards, and I think I like the back better if it didn't have this big white border around it. I don't know. This is the kind of game that if you bring it out, it looks complicated. It's not complicated, but it looks it. And also here, this bag, I gotta say, if you're pulling cubes from a bag, if that's all the fingers I can fit into a bag, your bag is too small. So the bag is a problem. Now, this game is a little odd to me because when I saw it, I looked at it, opened the board, and I was like, oh my word, this looks so complex. It's not. Even the rule book, which is 12 pages, I really feel like they could have condensed this rule book down, because the game is not nearly as, you look at it, you're like, oh no, it's not hard. You build gates, you pull cubes. You try to build gates in the spots you think cubes will come out. And so there's, that push your luck. I look at this one, and that airport hasn't come out yet. And so I will, do what I can to, maybe I'll open up a gate at an airport where there's no passengers, hoping against hope that the card comes out. Or I'd have the card in my hand. So it's a little bit of, I have some knowledge, and then random things will happen. And stuff's popping up all over the board, but it's just silly fun almost. Silly might be too light of a word, but the game has that entertaining, let's see what happens. There are a couple problems I have with the game. Minor things. One, I wish there were more green cubes in the bag. That whole pull, green cube, is exciting when it happens, but you could literally pull 12 red cubes in a row, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. I almost wish the green cube ratio was slightly higher. Secondly, and this is a bigger problem, I feel like the game has an incredibly strong last player, last turn advantage. If you are the last player on the last turn of the game, when you build your gates out, you can sit there and go, you can, maybe it's not advantage as much as it is analysis paralysis possibilities, because you can sit there and count every majority in every airport before you put yours out and go, well, I'm not winning that one, but I could win that one, can't win that one, and you just do it. It's so powerful, I found, and those majorities can swing it around. So maybe I might even auction for turn order in the last round. I'm not sure what to do about that. And yet, even with those little things and with the drabness of the board, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun putting a cubes in a bag. I thought it was fun, deciding, you're thinking two things when you put a gate in an airport. How often will passengers come up there? And the majority that airport is part of, or multiple majorities. So I don't really feel airline-esque here, but there is some interesting ideas here. I think this could have been themed with almost anything, for example. But I like that concept of, do you spread out? Do you really concentrate? There's definitely player interaction where we might be fighting over the passengers in Chicago and Atlanta. They're the two hottest airports. LAX is pretty big too. And because there's more cards for those. But also I might have a card here in my hand for Phoenix. And there's only one, or there's two cards for Phoenix in a deck, but I have one of the two in my hand, so I go to Phoenix. And other people think, oh, does he know something about Phoenix? I don't know. But is it worth me putting a gate there? It might still only be one passenger. So, simple game, actually. I would say the weight of this game is not very high at all, and yet one that I did enjoy. So that's Blue Skies. I'm Tom Vasel, and we'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment approved.